Yes, welcome to the Jamaica Young Police channel. It's June, and you know what June mean? June mean it's LGBTQ plus month. That's in time the gays and the other other members of this community celebrate their month in the United States of America. They get a month for themselves. Um, you know that you know Jamaica has been labeled one of the most homophobic places on earth, according to these people, in which Jamaicans, do not kill gays. Every gay that I have known that has been killed by their lovers in Jamaica. I have known 3 men personally whom I have worked with, and I know for men decades, and they were killed by their gay lovers, in which the lovers haven't been arrested and charged because it seemed like in Jamaica they are the only group of people who can kill others, and there's no criminal charges against them unless the perpetrator is of a lower economic background. But these 3 men were 3 police officers, well-educated men, and they were killed by their gay lovers in Jamaica, and nothing happened. I'll do a commentary about them later on. Anyway, so we know that the gays have been labeled in Jamaica as being homophobic. That's a lie. Jamaicans are not homophobic because we work with gay people. We don't attack them or anything like that. People don't even scorn them. So that's just a blatant lie. Just creating a problem when there is none. You understand? It's just lies and propaganda. You have to understand that the reason why Jamaican people do not subscribe to this kind of behavior, you understand, it's just that it was used to terrorize black people during slavery. The whites, the British white men, they used to, they had some serious homosexuals who were a part of the slave trade and a part of the management team on the plantations. And these men, they would rape the strongest and biggest black men on the plantation because they think that they cannot control them and use it and terrorize and belittle them. So this was a behavior that they used to demonize and belittle black people. So it was a form of terrorism. But the world is not telling the North Americans and the Europeans that's the reason why Jamaicans on a whole reject this kind of lifestyle. It's because it was used on them as a means of terrorism. They use it and terrorize our ancestors. So it's genetically embodied in a majority of the black people's genes. So it's passed on to them. You understand? It's just like, any other thing. So that trauma is still there within the genes. So no wonder why you have so many black people that have suffering from PTSD, from slavery, because it's a gene that has been passed on to them. It's just like if a woman is pregnant and anything that she has been through during her pregnancy, it's passed on to the unborn child. And that is not me saying, it's science. So I want you to listen to what they're telling you, the reason why Jamaicans do not subscribe to this homosexual lifestyle, and the main reason because it was used as a terroristic weapon against them. You understand? So telling the black people in Jamaica to kumbaya with gays and stuff like that, that would be like telling the African Americans who the Ku Klux Klans have lynched, killed, terrorized, to tell them that, well, look, you don't like them, well, you're being racist, so you have to just love them now, and if you don't, we're going to use economic terrorism against you. So that's another form. So you're going to terrorize the black people twice after their ancestors have been lynched, murdered, and all kind of thing. Now you're telling them you're going to use economic terrorism against them if they do not love the thing that their enemies have used against them. Remember, black people were even mutilated, they even cut off the black men in the genitals, and put it in jars and preserve it to look at What kind of human being would do something like that after you killed somebody, or before you cut off this person's penis and then you put it in a jar because you want to see it? That has to be some form of envy and some sickness right there. You understand? And and for the European and North American want to tell black people how to live after all those trauma. That is, that goes to show the unconscionable behavior of these people. But anyway, I wanted to check out this video, and this is history. Because a lot of Jamaican people and people all over the world, they do not read, they do not educate themselves about anything. They just go along with what the pundits said to them and what they like. So let's check out this video, okay? One love.
In the 17th century, a rough family of London cloth cutters called Beckford emigrated to the newly conquered colony of Jamaica to seek its fortune. The Beckfords invested in sugar and slaves.
Up, on your feet, on your feet. Up, come on your feet.
And within 4 generations became one of the richest families in England. They were the yuppies of their day, part of an emerging social class which aspired to become the new aristocracy. There was Beckford the planter, who wrote a unique handbook on how to run a sugar estate.
Out of every 4 African slaves, scarcely one produces a really efficient worker.
And Beckford the playboy, who used sugar profits to bring about a revival in Gothic architecture.
Some people drink to forget their unhappiness. I don't drink. I build.
But he'd be best remembered for his part in a notorious sexual scandal. He told his life story to a biographer to try to restore his reputation. While slavery flourished and sugar sales boomed, the Beckfords' world was an orgy of greed and extravagance. But the industry that made them was built on human suffering and greed, and would eventually destroy them. This is the story of the rise and fall of Britain's richest slaving dynasty, the House of Beckford. In 1774, an English gentleman, William Beckford of Summerley, arrives in Jamaica with his wife to take over the family business.
Hurry up.
He's the 4th generation of Beckford planters.
My father owned the 3 plantations on the Cabarita River, and on his death they became mine. At the time they were managed by representatives.
Summerley inherits slaves, property, and 7,000 acres worth £120,000, more than 2 million at today's rates, near Jamaica's southern port of Savannah-la-Mar.
Jamaica is the best country in the world. Fortunes may be made there, without question. They may also be lost. But an adventurer, investor, a speculator of imagination may certainly lift his fortunes in Jamaica.
Summerley is new to the business of slavery, but keen to increase the profitability of his plantations. The largest of these is Roaring River.
Pick up those. Come on, he's here now.
Oh, journey's end. Now we can get out of this infernal heat.
Good afternoon, Master. Welcome home.
Thank you,
Good
Caesar.
afternoon.
Welcome, Master.
Hello. Handsome addition.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Water for Mrs. Beckford.
Little is known about Summerley's wife, Charlotte, except that she was his first cousin.
Home.
Unusually for an Englishwoman, she's willing to brave the dangers of the tropics until they can return home with an even bigger fortune. Summerlee wastes no time heading out to the cane fields. The British have been in Jamaica since 1655, when they took the island from the Spanish. It's now a colony, providing Britain and her American possessions with sugar. By Summerlee's time, there are 700 plantations on the island.
The rain keeps away, we should have a very good crop.
For Summerlee, African slave labour is the machinery of his plantation, ideally suited to the task.
The climate in the West Indies is oppressive. The humidity for a European produces indolence and diminishes health, and ultimately the vigour of the mind. The Negro is constructed for exactly that climate. Their skin is thicker and able to withstand the heat.
Like all planters, Summerlee sees slaves as mere workhorses rather than people.
The light shining off the naked skin of the Negroes is a magnificent sight. The blades rise and fall like the violins of a well-conducted orchestra.
A uniquely detailed inventory of his father's property shows that Summerlee inherits 910 slaves worth £36,000. The Roaring River plantation alone has 84 men, 92 women, 80 children and 3 runaways. We know their names, their jobs and the amount that they are worth. Each one is given the Beckford name as a sign of ownership, and it's still a common surname in Jamaica today.
Moving too slow! Moving too slow, man, hurry up!
The use of forced slave labour demands a harsh control system. Summerlee employs a white overseer who manages 4 black drivers, privileged slaves who harass the field hands.
Hurry up! Hurry up!
Brutality and fear are the instruments of the regime.
Tell the drivers, no more rest days till the harvest is in.
Yes, sir.
While Summerlee is on the ground making money, his cousin, William Beckford of Font Hill, is in England spending it as the new head of the Beckford dynasty.
On the 29th of September 1781, William Beckford of Font Hill finally came of age.
On his 21st birthday, he becomes the owner of 22 Jamaican plantations, bought or ruthlessly acquired by his ancestors.
The property and wealth which he inherited was almost £1 million, with a further £100,000 a year in income.
This enormous fortune leads the poet Byron to describe him as England's wealthiest son. William's coming of age is a moment of great relief for his ambitious mother, Maria. She's fought off rival claims to her only son's fortune since the death of his father when he was 9.
My father increased the family wealth in Jamaica and then came back to London, where he became Lord Mayor of London twice. Actually, he made quite a name for himself. People used to call him the Great Beckford.
Maria appoints a trusted family friend, lawyer Thomas Wildman, to manage William's affairs. Between them, mother and lawyer will attempt the challenging job of guiding and controlling this frivolous young man.
Oh, I was never good for anything in this life, but composing airs, building towers, and forming gardens.
Now wealthy and respectable, the Beckfords brush under the carpet their family's dark history in the Caribbean.
The island of Jamaica was the rendezvous for the most lawless and profligate adventurers who ever roamed the earth.
The Beckford clan arrived in 1660 and set about making money.
The Beckford ancestors were certainly colourful. The great-grandfather, Peter Beckford, was ruthless, unscrupulous, and violent. The Beckford grandfather, another Peter Beckford, a Speaker of the Jamaica Assembly, shamefully murdered in cold blood the Deputy Judge Advocate. Despite his violence, he died in his own bed, reputed to be one of the richest subjects in Europe. When his strongbox was opened, the greater part of £1 million was discovered, hoarded up.
The largest share of the family's huge fortune has come to Beckford of Fonthill. He lavishes his extraordinary wealth on treasures, books, paintings and ceramics.
Happy are those with plenty of money. Their kingdom is come, their will is done upon earth, if not in heaven.
Beckford buys beautiful objects to distance himself from the origin of his wealth, with its unsavoury whiff of commerce and slavery.
Art is something that you have to feel inwardly, you have to feel it inside. It's not something that you can just admire. Mere admiration will not do. People pretend to be struck by an object of art, but that's only because people around them are being struck by the same thing.
Fonthill's expensive tastes challenge the patience of his lawyer, Thomas Wildman, who sets his monthly allowance according to sugar profits.
He sets too much value on the things that money can buy. The enjoyment of gildery and painting is momentary.
Well, what use is money if you can't spend it? How Wildman could seriously think that I would leave a single farthing of my allowance undrawn, I have no idea.
Wildman's job is to run the Beckford sugar business and fight off ancient claims to his estates. Fonthill also trusts Wildman to protect him from fraudsters.
The whole world believes that Mr. Beckford is groaning under so heavy a burden of riches that anyone who can take part of that weight from his shoulders is doing him an essential service.
While Fonthill glosses over the source of his wealth, Summerlee is at the sharp end of the business, driving the pace of sugar production. Sugarcane is the first agricultural product in the world to go through an industrial process before going to market. The word factory is first used in English to describe the Jamaica boiling houses. During harvesting, slaves work a shift system.
This is the actual factory.